Welcome to the Wake Up Call here. I've got Mr. Jim Nunnelly, also known as James Tiberius Nunnelly, as I call him. We're going to talk in a series about the call. I know a lot of people aren't familiar with the call, or they see us on YouTube and they're like, what's the Kansas City call? So Jim here is he is a community everything in Kansas City. He is a community organizer. He is a avid Chiefs fan. He is a hospital administrator of sorts. He is everything here in Kansas City to the Black community. And so he's going to ask me questions about the call, and I'm going to try and do my dandiest to answer them and have a frank conversation. Mr. Nunnelly?
And that, that word, that keeps bothering me is, have a candid conversation, because it's hard to have a candid conversation.
It is.
And it's because it gets close to our hearts, or too close. It's kind of like a no parking zone that we have in our heads all the time. And especially with our young people, they have developed very nicely the art of being close but not too close. Mm-hmm. Young people have, and each generation seems to get further and further apart as far as this is concerned. The closest alliance that we have is a mother and daughter relationship, and it's mainly what they go through or what they have to put up with. It's kind of based on that more than any kind of professional kind of thing. In other words, we just don't develop that part of us in this. As a matter of fact, it seems like we're in an era where we want to get further and further away from intimacy, and the kind of intimacy that allows you to say what you want to say and not be regarded as harsh. And so, anyway, go ahead.
I think some of that intimacy thing is, we have a device that we put in the middle of us, and I think that mobile device, aka the phone, blocks us from intimacy. It's a conversation I have with my children quite a bit. I've got one daughter that will call me incessantly. I have another daughter that will only text me, and then I have another one, my son, will not text, won't call me unless it's an emergency. But when it's he and I, he won't shut up. He'll talk all day. So I find it interesting.
Yeah, well, I have a daughter, and she's probably the best blessing ever in my life. And I say that with nothing that can compare. She's incomparable. But she expresses her intimacy by buying gifts. They're always the perfect gift. I can almost go down the whole ladder. Would you agree with that, Jess? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like the perfect gift. And she must study me a lot to be able to do that.
Is this your oldest daughter?
Well, that's the only daughter.
The only daughter. Mm-hmm. That's my oldest daughter.
Yeah. Well, but you'll find that they find a way to the closeness that they need to get to. And that is a undiscovered, unrelenting skill set that we don't talk about enough is in women. And I'm sorry that I have to bring this up as a man, but, that should be first of the list, because, they could sit in a room and act like they have nothing to say and yet have everything in their mind already made up what the next scenario is going to be, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And that kind of skill set we've never even explored. And we kind of explored it a little bit. But anyway, I'm a little off the cuff here, but we got a lot to talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about the call.
All right.
And what's going on, I guess. It's we're in the month of March of 2026. I'm sure people don't understand how the newspaper business works, but January is usually a bad month. Not in a bad month as in like, the news cycle's bad. It's a bad month in like it's the beginning of the year and people aren't really buying the paper that much. So sales are usually down. There's not a lot to advertise, not a lot going on. The saving grace for us is that Martin Luther King's birthday. So we get a good bump in January, the week of
business.
Yeah, we get the week of and the week after, and then it just kind of dies down. That same thing, as of late, translates to a good February too. The past 2 years, February has been great months.
Because that's Black History Month.
For Black History Month, has been really good for us. That has not always been the case. I've been in and around the paper since 2002, officially, and unofficially since 98, 99. And I will say that traditionally, February is usually a horrible month for us. But the past couple of years, February's been really good. And I think that's good.
But I think that's over-reliance on becoming the best you could be. When you sort of can map out what your life is going to be like, particularly in business.
Right.
Because it's the mal-occurrences or the occurrences that really drive the newspaper business.
Right. Well, and I think one of the things that we've been doing as of late is some of my predecessors, like my aunt and my mother, who have ran and owned the paper, they have really concentrated on Christmas all through the Christmas season. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's January. We got to get this done. And then they hurry up and get January and February squared away. And I think what I've been trying to do is in November and October, I'm already looking at January and February.
Yeah.
Which sometimes means that December's a little slow. But December, I always figure, will take care of itself.
So you got a Dow Jones mind.
Yeah.
Like the futuristic kind of thing.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, and I credit some of that to I originally went to school for communication arts at university at Park University. And my emphasis in communications was in public relations. And so public relations, you take like 2 business classes, and they always talk about planning ahead, always.
One of the things that kind of I was off about when you introduced me, you never talked about my relationship to the call and why that is. And it's kind of funny because it's partly historical, but it's also the rationale for why you and I are.
Right. Well, and one of the reasons is I take things at face value.
Okay.
So if someone is already here, I assume a couple of things. One, they've already been vetted. You've known my aunt and my mother. My mother and my aunt have both worked with you. You knew Miss Bluford. And so to me, there is no reason for me to question, ask, or anything other than to have blind trust and faith.
Okay.
Because you knew Miss Bluford and you knew my aunt and you knew my mother. And to me, those three people, if they worked with you, softly recommend you, then to me, you're gold.
What the hell you mean softly?
Softly means they didn't say it to me implicitly, but it was known that, listen, if Nunnelly tells you to jump, don't even ask how high, just do it.
I want you to record that, and I'll play it at home. We have a oligarchy at our house. Where the richest people, the people with the gold, have the last say on everything. That's what it is. And we don't have a lot of money, but it's still an oligarchy. It is what it is.
You talking Miss Janice Roney?
Well, I didn't want to call her name because that brings in a whole nother echelon to it. But it is insightful that here you are in this day and time when the life means so much to everybody that you are tasked with one of the toughest assignments ever around. That is to not only run a good or inherit a good business, but also to run it in a way where the times are rampant, are not necessarily cut out for you. And it's kind of like you've got the ultimate task or the ultimate goal. And that's what makes me sort of stand near you or stand by you. It has nothing to do with your parents or your history. It has more to do with the task that you are assigned, and that is to bring about a change in something that doesn't want to change or it feels like it doesn't need to change.
The call, when I was brought in 2002, let's back up. In 2002, I called my aunt. I was working at State Line Nissan, and I learned the 3 or 4 months I was there that selling cars is not for me. I needed a job out of college. I had worked at American General Finance before then, and I was doing collections, and I didn't like it. So I thought I'd sell cars, and I didn't like that either. And being a 20-something-year-old young man, you're trying to find yourself. And I called my aunt, and I said, hey, I don't like doing sales, and I don't like doing collections. Do you think there's something at the call I can do? And she said, you know what? I need young people down at the call, and I need young people down here to help me figure out this whole web thing. That was the latest, greatest thing. And some social media things and a few other things. And the call, that was some 20, almost 30 years ago. And the call is still trying to transition into those things. There's so much resistance to change, even though the writing was on the wall in the late 90s and in the 2000s of where the newspaper business was going. And I'll give you an example of that. When I was at Park, I forgot the name of this reporter, but he came from the Star, and he gave us this whole spiel about the future of the newspaper business and how reporting is going to change, and we're going to have cameras that we can live stream and all this. This is like in 98, 99, and it was like, that seemed so way off in the future. It was just 5 years down the road. And one of the things he said is, one day we're going to have a thing that's going to be a tablet or a sheet of paper or something that's digital, and we'll be able to read content right then and there, and it would have been published not the day before, but minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And that all came true in the past. And that's when I say the newspaper business knew what was coming, but the newspaper business has always been very like, slow down there. We don't know if that's what's going to happen.
Kind of cautious.
Very cautious. And so, we launched a website in 2002. We have relaunched several websites over the past 20 some odd years. And I think we're finally at a place now where I like where we are with our website. One of the things I was tasked with was that. One of the other things I was tasked with when I first started here was to find efficiencies and to save money. And this is one of those boring back office things, but at some point in time, we were spending quite a bit of money on phones. Mm-hmm. And I know phones are always a source of contention.
On the phone or on phones?
On phones and on the phone service.
Okay.
And so one of the things I did was I found a company where we can go digitally with the phones and save a ton of money. And then we leased our phones. Now, as of late, they're doing construction on 18th Street. That's why I bring that up. They're doing construction on 18th Street, and our internet will be down for days, or the phone exchange service for the internet will be down for a day or so through the company because they're doing construction. So I apologize for any inconvenience people may have over the past year or so. We are getting there to get that remedied. That being said, That's what I was brought in for. So I knew bits and pieces of the business.
But you didn't say anything about carrying on the family name.
That's not what I was tasked with.
I know, but that's in there, though.
It is, and it happened over time. It was, I didn't see the big picture, and that's where I'm getting at of being young at the time. Mm-hmm. I didn't see the big picture because I was 20, my early 30s. When you're young, you have kind of blinders on, I think.
Well,
you don't see the bigger picture.
But it isn't blinders. It's your eyes have not opened fully.
Right. Now that I'm in my late 40s, I'm almost 50 now, I will still say I have some blinders on, but I really try and zoom out and see the bigger picture of how things are going to work, how things are going to affect other things.
But that's your task right now, is to keep going something that's on that's dying, or that could be known as dying.
Right.
You got to revive it.
Right.
It's kind of like you're tasked with a CPR kind of a notion that you've got to save it and at the same time run it.
Sort of. It's just like I've had people ask me publicly who've come by the paper, are you ever going to stop printing? Like just outright. Are you ever going to stop printing? I can say emphatically, no. The call will, for the foreseeable future, always print. Now, does that mean some way off in the future, 20, 30 years from now, is it going to be cost prohibitive to print? Or will I not be able to print because there's no printer here in Kansas City? It's possible. But, since the 1960s, the call has not printed in Kansas City.
I know that.
It's either been printed in Columbia, Missouri, Independence, Missouri, St. Joseph, or north of the river, in North Kansas City. So I guess technically that is Kansas City. But
so you do the work and then send it out.
Yeah.
And that send it out imposes a lot of
Right. This is why we
restraints.
close early on Thursdays.
Yes.
Because we have to get the paper together and then literally go to press. Now, it's gotten easier over the years because everything's digital.
Yeah, but but you left out in your statement, that you've got the task of not only turning something around, but also turning it up.
Yeah.
And and that's most businesses that survive these hard economic times, and they're not hard as much as they are consistent. Or the need to be consistent.
But I also see the call as being transitioned throughout the years. Like when it was first started, we were at the height of Jim Crow. And then we went through World War II. Well, we went through the Depression and then World War II. And it transitioned into a civil rights paper, not just reporting on the lynchings and the births and the comings and goings of Black America in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas, but it transitioned into a national paper in the 30s and 40s. And then in the 50s, it was a civil rights paper at its zenith. Miss Bluford and I can't think of that gentleman's name just that quick. Mr. Wilkes.
Roy
Wilkinson, sorry. They were doing all they could to push civil rights and talk about civil rights and talk about the disenfranchisement, the voting issues, the school issues, the segregation issues, and still kept their finger on the lynchings and the comings and goings.
So in addition to being trained differently, you are also tasked with the notion that you've got to change waters or change the waters you're swimming in.
Well, right. And I look at what we did in the 70s and 80s because the call had to do a major transition then. Because the civil rights era, I hate to say it was coming to an end. It itself was changing.
Well, as far as the new press was concerned, or the main press, it died, but we still living with it.
Right. And then we had the transition into that in the 80s, and then in the 90s, we had to deal with, I hate to call it super criminals, but we had to deal with this explosion of crime not just here in Kansas City, but nationwide. And we had to deal with the decline of the black middle class and the black urban middle class. Like, there was a lot of changing that was going on.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. And then the digitalization happening in the 2000s.
But that's the way I want you to explain the business, is that you got caught up in something that didn't last.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see, the newspaper business not only has globally changed, it really changed or had its bad effect on black newspapers, because when civil rights became no longer a headline issue, no Martin Luther Kings, no Jesse Jacksons, no whatever, it died too, or at least the need for it in the white press to ordain the black press. We didn't have enough together to keep it going.
Right.
And that's your task.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel sorry for you? I don't think so.
I wouldn't. I am a 1977 Gen Xer. Some call me a Xennial. We're built for this. I say that just because of other conversations you and I have had privately. I came up in a time where mom and dad both worked. And when we were in first, second, third grade, we were told, hey, look, this shoestring with this key on it is going to get you into the house. Don't let nobody in. Don't talk to nobody. If you need anything, Miss Beulah across the street will help you out, but don't bother her, and don't mess with her when Oprah's on at 4 o'clock. And that was that. That was that.
Guidelines.
And when you came home, you better call your mama and let her know you got home safely. And let me tell you, at 4:15, if I hadn't called West Missouri Mental Health Center and let my mother know that I was home, I was going to have hell to pay.
Well, that's interesting that you got that, because you inherited this. And you're trying to tell me, it seems, that you got a tough load to carry. But everybody who carries any load at all considers it tough.
I wouldn't
so
say
I'm not going to.
I wouldn't say it's a tough load. I would say it is a load that I felt like I was brought up to take care of.
Okay. Well,
but I didn't know I was brought up to take care of it, if that makes sense.
You know, we mentioned Dow Jones there at the beginning. And most people think of Dow Jones as some kind of indicator, but it really was created for people who had a lot of money to play with. And so it was created to kind of get an idea of what the future may look like, so it could be capitalized on. And so when people say the Dow Jones, it assumes that you got money to begin with. And you see, your assumption here that you're just another job, that's not true.
No.
What you are tasked with is keeping alive a business that would have died anyway.
Yeah.
And you see, that's different.
The black newspaper business as a whole is in a slow, but I don't want to say precarious, but that's the word that keeps coming to mind. It's in a slow, precarious death and renaissance at the same time, because we need community newspapers.
But the renaissance ain't exactly, the word itself means bring something back.
Right.
And, it ain't been clear on what it is we want to bring back when it comes to the newspaper services. But it's kind of a condition of the black people in this country all across the board.
Right.
We don't know what part we play if there ain't no slavery.
And slavery doesn't always mean bondage. Slavery could be slavery of the mind.
Oh, it could be
slavery of economics.
Oh God, or slavery at home.
Yeah.
And you notice who I looked at when I said that.
Why you gotta throw Miss Janice under the bus? I'm just gonna say this right now. I'm gonna stop Mr. Nunnelly real quick. Janice is a saint.
Oh no.
She is a sweetheart. She is the blessed grandmother of Kansas City for all of us black children who were born in the 70s on up. If you need a grandma, Miss Janice is here.
Oh, Lord.
She is the best.
Oh Lord.
She is a sweet, sweet woman.
You're giving me another illness to put in the medical school.
Now Tiberius over here, and I say that affectionately.
Well, it's kind of like what you're tasked with, really, is that you're asked to revive a dead business for the most part. And when I say revive, the word revive means you bring it back to life, but you almost are tasked with the task of starting a new life all over again.
Well, and it's like what was old is once new. We are doing a podcast.
Well,
and a podcast really is nothing more than a fancy radio show with video.
all right.
You know what I mean?
All right.
Then so like we're coming full circle where, Mr. Franklin probably couldn't afford the ability or probably couldn't get a radio license in 1919 or 1920. We don't need to do that anymore. We don't need a radio license. We can just broadcast on YouTube for nothing.
But you have learned what black people have known for years, that you can be rich and poor at the same time. And that is kind of the task that you are kind of like saddled with. And, when I reach out, I'm not reaching out to you because you're smart and all that, even though you are. But I'm reaching out to you because we can't give up. We can't give up. The times are hard. The friends are few. And the task is blurry.
Yeah.
But we can't give up.
No, that's 100%.
And you see, and that's the real task you are. You can get away and say this business is not sound, it's not promising, it will never make the Dow Jones or whatever. You can come up with all the intellectual reasons you can, but we don't want to let this die.
No, and we need to have a voice for the voiceless.
Yeah.
That is where the call started, that's where the call stands, and that's where the call will always be. We need to keep that up. We need a voice for the voiceless. And in our community, there are people who have issue left and right that need to have that voice. And I will say to those individuals, come by, call us, talk to us, email us, buy a paper. All those things are important. And the call is going to evolve. And we need to hold on for the ride because, just like everything else, things change. Not everyone has a landline anymore, right? Because things have changed.
But our task in business or in this country is to sometimes keep something going, that will make money, invite people in. People depend on it. And somehow or another, like this is at issue with you because from all the indicators you talked about earlier at the beginning of this podcast, don't seem to indicate that there's much room for making a lot of money in all of this or whatever you might have had in your mind.
I think the days of the call making millions of dollars like it did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 90s I think that's done.
All right.
I think that's done. I think the paper will be able to support itself. Do we have 20, 30 employees like we did back then? No. We have 7 office employees, and we have 7 or 6, depending on the month, staff writers that are contracted.
So we're waiting for the doctor to come and pronounce the call dead? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, that's what it sounded like.
No. If anything, I'm waiting for someone to say that, hey, you guys look differently than when you did. There's a rebirth.
Well,
There's something that is we are fundamentally changing what the call once looked like to something else, but it is still connected to the past, still reporting on what's going on in the future or what's going on presently, and then looking for what's going to happen in the future.
And I kind of disagree with that. I think it never stopped. You see, that's the one thing that we don't put enough story in. We think the civil rights era is over. It never stopped.
No, I agree.
It never stopped.
I agree. Which, when I said that in the 70s and 80s, it
dissipated.
It dissipated and it changed, but it's still there. Like, we are still fighting the same battles.
Same.
That my grandparents My grandparents fought. Your parents fought.
That's where you come in. Is you got to find a way to make us live, but we act like we're dead.
Right. I'll give you guys a thing. This SAVE Act, I'm sure some people are familiar with it and some are not. But the crux of the SAVE Act is they want people to have to purchase a passport or some kind of federal ID of sorts that tells people that you're a citizen.
Okay.
We already have mechanisms out there that say you're a citizen. Mm-hmm. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment are all set up to say who is a citizen, who is not a citizen, and what happens if you commit a law that takes some of your rights away, i.e. the 13th Amendment, i.e. the 14th Amendment says who is a citizen.
Oh, you're good at
and
it.
i.e. the 15th Amendment that says black people are citizens.
Okay.
So,
but you ain't a good representative to talk about that. I just
no,
want you to know
but
that.
but where I'm going with this is that it's a poll tax, and the call has been arguing about poll taxes since time began.
Interesting. But what the hell is a poll tax?
A poll tax is basically a tax or a fee you have to pay to vote.
Okay.
And having to buy an $85, what is it called? A passport, or I think there's a proposal out there, a $30 federal ID is a poll tax.
So you want me to have empathy or sympathy for your plight? Is that
No,
what you're telling me?
neither.
Okay, so what
I'm just saying civil rights hasn't ended.
we agree on that.
We are still talking about the same thing. It's packaged differently.
Okay.
It looks differently. You get it differently. But civil rights has not changed, to your point. It has just migrated. It has changed with the times, but has yet stayed the same.
All right. Now we've gone in this conversation from your being appointed leader of a failing newspaper, city,
I wouldn't say
urban.
it's failing.
Well, I mean that's the picture you painted. It ain't on the Dow Jones, and to that, if it ain't on the Dow Jones, it's failing in these day and times.
I would also say this, and then we have to wrap up. But I would say this, that most small business newspapers look, feel, and smell like the Call.
But you're black.
Yeah, I know. We're black, but we still, on certain levels, on a lot of levels, we're just like any other black newspaper. We still have a readership that we're trying to grow but is declining. We have majority of our readers are older, not younger. And we're trying to transition to a more younger group, but keep our old readership. And I think those are things that any newspaper, regardless of race, any newspaper that is small, and even large ones. I mean, you can look at the Star; they're dealing with the same thing.
Well, I agree with that. And it's okay to draw associates, but as we kind of evolve here, let's not try to generalize what it is we face with the Call. Let's talk specifically about the Call. Now, I say that because it's a unique position, and the only reason why it isn't written about or professed in college classrooms is because of its uniqueness. Nobody has ever been faced with this before.
That's true.
And you see, it can't be laid on religion because religion doesn't account for newspapers. There's nowhere in the scriptures at all where there was a newspaper. Definitely wasn't a black one.
No.
And so therefore we're on new grounds, but it's an old concern, but it's a racial concern, and it's important to us. It's kind of like doing business in a lake where they have banned boats. I mean, like you doomed, because if you can't get out into the middle where the fish are, you ain't got nothing to say, and you definitely ain't got nothing to do, and you ain't gonna make no money. And this is a sad plight. But wait
a minute. You use the analogy of it's like being on a lake that has banned boats. So the people who banned the boat, would that be like the HOA? Because that's what it sounds like.
Well, it could be anything, but I'm just saying to you, is the convenience is we don't have none.
No, you are right.
And so we got to either swim where the fish are, or we got to figure out a way we can get the fish to the bank. I mean, and that seems to be your plight. You know, and you want to cry a little bit, and I don't want you to cry.
I don't want to cry.
Yeah, you do.
No. I just want people to know what our struggles are and what our struggles are not. And right now, the call has more struggles than struggle nots.
Well, I know.
But I also see things changing. For the past 2 years, we have done really good. We have seen a lot of changes happen here at the call. And I think the majority of them have been good. I also feel like business is on the up as much as it has been a struggle. I also think some of the struggle has to do with just being in Kansas City and being a black newspaper.
And I want you to wear that a little bit more proudly. And I say that because, like I went to a seminar for a guy in Dallas, Texas. His name was Caesar Clark. And Caesar Clark never spoke with a note, and yet he was a profound minister. And he founded what's called Bishop College. And his approach was never to read the scripture. And you see, what I'm saying to you is the scripture is both a kind of a guidepost and a leaning post. And those two posts don't always go together. Mm-hmm. And, you got to decide whether the call for you is a guidepost or whether it's a leaning post. And to me, that's kind of where we're exploring. And that's
fair.
That's fair. And, we can lean on the fact that we're black and we ain't going nowhere. We ain't never been nowhere. And we in trouble now.
Yeah.
New kind of slavery.
And that's for sure.
Or you can take the task, as somebody would take the task, to climb Mount Everest. You can take it in that way. In other words, I know this is difficult, but there is a way. And you see, what we lack, we have borrowed dismality from people that were dismal to begin with. So they're better at being dismal than we are. But we are faith people, and we've got to kind of depend on faith. But it's faith. It's a work in faith. It's not a faith that has all the affinities. Maybe technology is what you would want to say.
Yeah.
But even without faith, we've got to learn how to survive, because if it's needed, it's right up there with the air. We don't know. We've never seen air. We've never felt air. We've never met air. And we wouldn't know air if we saw it, but it's there. And somehow or another, you've got to create that there-ness so that we can live forward. And that seems to be your task. And that's what I think we should talk about over the next few times.
Okay.
Let's keep talking about what that there is. Listen,
guys, that's our time. I always let Nunnelly get the final word in, even though I want to say more. But I would love for you guys to join us again to part 2 of this series. These are what you're listening to, what you're getting into here is how Mr. Nunnelly and I talk. He calls me at least once or twice a week, way too early in the morning or way too late at night, and shares his thoughts with me. And I think these things should be shared with others. And we're going to continue this talk about the call, where we're going, where we've been, where we need to go, and all that kind of stuff, and some of our plights and troubles. If you would hit that like and subscribe button, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you. Thanks, Jim.
That was a good idea.